Good morning, everybody. And it's Teepa and Matthew, and we have a guest. Our guest is,
Dr. Corinne Auman.
there you go, Corinne Auman. Now, what's going to happen here is that Matthew is going to go away from us visually, but he's still here. And he's going to be keeping track of anything you put in chat, any comment. And he will make sure that if those come in and, we should respond to them, that Corinne or I actually get to see that. Because our goal for doing this is to get you involved, get you engaged. And that means, well, then we have to give you a place to go get involved and engaged. And it turns out that Corinne has been busy writing something because she's had life experience. And the life experience has been, as now we were talking, a care manager with families of older adults and people living with dementia. And your background is otherwise, you're in North Carolina, by the way.
I am. I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina. Yep. So
Right
my
down the road from
background,
me. I'm in Eflin, just so you know. You've
yeah,
seen the sign.
I've seen the sign. I have passed by the sign on the interstate. Yep, indeed. So I'm not far away. And I actually got my PhD at NC State here in North Carolina and
That's
studying
in
older
Raleigh, for
adults.
those of you who don't know that. That means she went on past me, past Hillsborough, past Durham, past Chapel Hill, and on over there to Raleigh to get her degree. She wanted to be red and white rather than any of the other colors along the way. Apparently.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, studying older adults.
Yeah, studying older adults. So you've done work for a while. You aren't a brand new spring chicken, are you?
No, I've been in the field for over 20 years, but I've been in care management specifically for about 12.
Okay, so she's not as old as I am in the field, but she's on up there now. She's not just getting her ears wet behind the ears. Is that it?
That's the phrase,
Something
yeah.
like that. I mean, she's done enough and knows the system well enough that basically, I'll say it because she probably won't. She's a PhD. I'll say the system sucks. The system sucks for old people and people living with dementia in general. Now, there's always bright lights out there. We know some of them, but there is a lot of darkness and there's a lot of distress around providing support and care for people who are aging, like me. I'm
Like
healthy
all of
aging.
us. Let's
And
be
all of
clear.
us. I mean,
We're all
yeah,
aging. We're
we're
older at
all
the end
doing
of
it.
this conversation than we were at the beginning. It is not just something old people do.
No, I mean, in the reality, if you're not doing it, well, you don't need to worry about much of anything anymore because you're just gone. I mean, you're
Right.
out of it. And until that happens, we're all going to get older. So we want to have this better. So you actually did some work in this area and you have some supportive. The reason we're on here is you've done a book, but the book is about taking control and making changes because the changes aren't going to automatically happen because we'd like them to.
Right.
So
Right.
what's some of the things that are going on in the system that means I've got to raise my hand and go, I need different help. I need support, but I also have to move forward in a way that's supportive for me and the person I'm supporting.
Yeah. So the whole reason or the whole thinking behind the book is that if you don't like, it talks a lot about what's going on right now in the world and kind of what it's like to grow older and to be a caregiver, trying to navigate for someone who's growing older with you. But it also talks about if you want the future to be different, if you want the world to be different as you grow older, we have to raise our hands and we have to say this isn't working and how can we change this? So one of the big things that I think really resonates with your audience in particular is ageism in healthcare. Because in my work as a care manager, we just kind of constantly see this battle that caregivers are having to fight to get their loved ones a diagnosis, to get them appropriate treatment, to get themselves
timely support.
Timely support, timely treatment, and to get healthcare providers to pay attention. I think your audience is probably woefully aware of how unprepared the healthcare system is for our older adults and just the number of older adults we have and the issues that older adults are dealing with, like dementia, and just not, we don't give healthcare providers enough training. Almost every doctor has to go through a rotation in pediatrics, even if they are never going to treat a child, but they are not required to go through a geriatrics rotation, even though almost all of them are going to deal with older people at some point. And that is ageism. I mean, that is just the devaluation of the older population and kind of saying, oh, well, they don't really matter. We're not going to study them. We're not going to pay attention. And that really impacts the quality of care and the quality of life for the older adult, but then for their entire family, the caregivers, everyone.
Yeah. I mean, and so if we don't, as we're aging up and as we're changing, if we don't look at our goals for ourselves, our health goals, our life goals, our behavioral goals for ourselves, and we don't get the right support, well, we aren't going to get the right support if we don't do some proactive work. And my saying is, why do you keep hiring the same plumber to fix something when they didn't do it well the first 5 times? I mean, it's sort of like, first time, I mean, you're taking your chances a little bit because you didn't know any better. But the second time through, give better instructions, maybe because it's the only plumber you can find. But then the third time you go, wait a minute, why is this allowed to happen? Why is he allowed to have a license to practice this if he's not skilled at it? I mean, why am I paying what I'm paying into a system that doesn't respect me as someone who knows what's going on with me and my side of the equation? I have someone on the other side of that desk doesn't give a crap about my side of the equation. They just want to go through their routine, their habit, their pattern. And they haven't even looked to see what's the outcome for me if you do that routine thing you do without thinking. Like you just give me verbal. So you're going to want to change that pill. Don't take the pill I gave you last time. I want you to switch it off and get just half a tablet. Now I'm going to give you the whole tablet, even though you're going to take half for about 2 weeks, because we're going to build up to it. And you can break these. Now, some of those ones you're on. Now, I want you to be sure you don't take the other one. All right. So what I just said? That'll be great. All right. So I'll see you in 6 weeks and see how it's going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to, I mean, I don't want to throw healthcare providers under the bus in the sense that
Pressure. Yeah.
There's pressure. And again, I think they are woefully undertrained they're not getting trained in working with older adults.
Yep.
If you want to go into geriatrics, you're going to be one of the lowest paid doctors. I mean, so
Most stressed.
Yeah. And so I don't want to throw healthcare providers under the bus, but at the same time, we have to recognize as people who are caring for older loved ones, we have to recognize that healthcare worker probably didn't get a lot of training and may not be you may have to tell them some things about working with older adults.
Like just simply go, wow, that was a lot of data.
Yeah.
I need to go back over it so I don't make a mistake, because the last thing I want to do is make a mistake with these meds you've told me were really important.
Right.
So,
and be willing to advocate and to say that to your provider rather than just kind of going, oh, I don't want to speak up, or I don't want to interrupt them, or I'm sure it'll be in the paperwork they send home. Yeah, you've got to be willing to raise your hand and say,
and
wait a second.
partner in this work. Yeah. So this book that you have created is a great resource for understanding the story behind it and then giving you some tools moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, and those are the individual pieces. And then we also know we need to keep raising our hand and saying this system is not working for people living with dementia. The reimbursement structure here is not amenable to the kind of support and care people actually need. If you want to talk about what's the most complex care, it isn't cardiac, it isn't cancer anymore, it's dementia care. It is the most complicated care situation you can find yourself in, because people living with dementia don't just have dementia. They have other health problems too, and their partners do. And what we keep doing is putting Band-Aids on something that requires deep, thoughtful, creative intervention.
Yeah.
And it's just not happening.
Yeah. Comprehensive intervention, looking at
comprehensive,
the whole thing.
So this resource, this book, we want for those of you who are involved in the role of care partnering, if you're involved in the role of care supporting, if you're one of those healthcare providers, this could be a resource for you and for your people, because we are trying to change the culture of care. And the only way to change culture is one mind at a time.
Yeah.
We all know that. It has to start with one of us raising our hand and saying, hang on, I need something different. Because what we've totally missed is healthcare providers have had some brain changes of their own. They're struggling frequently with the amount of data coming in and the amount of expectation on them. And their difficulty is finding the space and time to raise their hand and say, you know what, I need more education, when they just finished a whole bunch
Mhm.
and yet they weren't prepared for the population they're being asked to be with. So we've been sort of doing this about that. I mean, we've been like, but we also know that it will take time, it will take effort. But your book is a resource, I think, is what we're excited about. And the reason we wanted you to come on and have a little conversation here, because ageism is everywhere, but it particularly shows up in healthcare. And
And the thing too, for your listeners, if you're thinking, oh man, that's going to be a depressing book and I don't want to read it, it's really not. And, my goal with the book is to make it readable and enjoyable as you read it, but to also hopefully inspire you once you're done with it to, feel like you are a little more empowered,
all the
to
action.
yeah, call to action in terms of being able to raise your hand and thinking about your own future and being able to help us make change. Just like you said, one mind at a time, one person at a time. That's the goal.
Yeah, we wouldn't recommend the book if we didn't find it that way. We don't recommend depressing, awful stuff. We fix it or address it or bring it up and raise it up and go, there's another way of looking at this. This is not okay. Let's move this way instead. And instead, this is a book to help you move in that direction. So thank you so much, Corinne, for what you've done and for being open to the conversation. And if anybody, you did have questions, remember Matthew's moving those forward so we can respond to that. And till next time, take care with your care. And don't forget to raise your hand when it's appropriate.
Great. Thank you.